My name is Hans Butzer. I'm director at Butzer-Gardner Architects and also director with the University of Oklahoma College of Architecture. I had the good fortune of being part of the Coeur d'Alene Master Plan, which kind of laid the table for establishing the site for what became the Oklahoma City Skydance Bridge. And through my understanding of that process, became aware of a competition or request for qualifications by the city for teams to offer up their interest in potentially designing this bridge. So I wanted to compete for this project and thought that this was the ideal scenario in which to invite the people that I thought were the best young minds of Central Oklahoma and create this kind of young dream team, if you will. And so invited, Chris and Ken. Chris I knew through the University of Oklahoma, Fears Lab at the College of Engineering. Ken I had gotten to know. In addition, Jeremy Gardner, Stan Carroll, who's a well-known civic artist here in Oklahoma City, David Wanzer, and Brett Johnson at the time. But so I tried to get this team together, thinking that, along with Laurent Massenat, can't forget Laurent, the Frenchman, that this constellation of architects, engineers, designers brought many different viewpoints, different sensibilities, different disciplinary interests to what would become the Skydance Bridge. And all of us really have such a dear passion for Oklahoma City and the future of this community and the role that design can play in further shaping our identity. But so we were very excited to get everyone on board on the team. We submitted our qualifications, and of the 16 teams that globally, submitted, ours was one of the 4 teams that the city selected and said, okay, we want each of you 4 teams to actually submit a design.
In this case, we had a lot of things that we were looking at in terms of Oklahoma. We were thinking it needed to be something that reflected Oklahoma and Oklahoma City very specifically. And so we started talking about the way the wind, obviously everybody thinks of Oklahoma, the wind comes sweeping down the plains. We started thinking about the imagery of that along with the Route 66 icons that you see along the way. We started thinking about the types of structures that are around here, which are oil derricks, and we even talked about the notion of teepees, and the commonality of this is the pipes and the thin cladding that goes over all of this to hold it together. We started thinking also about the urban connection. This thing is in the middle of downtown, or it's going to be surrounded by downtown with the Coeur d'Alene, and we wanted this to be a very important landmark that people would see not only from the interstate but as they walk from one side of the park to the other. And so there was a lot of things floating around, and the way we kind of started doing this, rather than just as Hans and Chris can talk about, is very iterative, and rather than one person saying, here's what we're going to do, let's do this, we all started throwing out ideas in the beginning and had I don't know how many sessions we went through that, and finally we got to a point, because we did know we had to bring it to a head and pick one direction, and we had a very democratic voting process, and I think that was an important part of it too, that once we selected that particular design, we all got right behind it and tried to make it the best it could be.
In the United States, generally, engineers are given a specific task by the architects. The design is set, and the engineer basically uses their craft to define what the loads are and then designs it to withstand gravity or the lateral loads. Hans chose a process that is more European, where the structural engineers were brought in at the beginning. And fundamentally, I think it helped improve the process and improve the product. Because we could give feedback to the architects in real time on what would work, what would not work, what would be edgy from our point of view and exciting. And that feedback process started on day one when we were first looking at influence of wind on Oklahoma, and informed the entire design process. So for me, it's a unique situation. It's never happened before in my design life, and I enjoyed it. I loved it, and I think it's the proof of the pudding's in the eating. It's the product is in my opinion wonderful. I love it, and I'm very proud of it.
So the bridge is about the notion of the scissortail flycatcher, and specifically the Skydance, which is the mating ritual of the male as he's courting the female. And so it's all about him dancing in the wind and spiraling down, and the idea of these feathers. And so we started talking about how to make this bird-like, but without being a literal bird. And that's the challenge, is you want to convey that kind of feel and that kind of dynamic quality, but you don't want to make it literal. And so that became part of it. And then so the stainless steel feathers, as we call them, is something else that was became a part of it, and also became a play on the light, because the lighting really is pretty spectacular with it. The light coming up through there at different times of the day, the way it reflects on it, and at night. And so it's really about again, trying to pull all the bird together, if you will. But then then there's the bridge itself.
Evolved out of the trying to capture the energy of the scissortail flycatcher and how it could inspire our design process. And it was through, doing more and more research about the scissortail flycatcher that I think it was Stan actually who kind of discovered that this, there was this courtship, this boy meets girl kind of thing with birds. And so the idea of Skydance seemed to resonate with all of us because it had this sense of loftiness, of inspiration, of joy, of something positive, something about life. And there was, it seemed to embody so many of the qualities that we really hoped to capture, within the design itself. The lighting concept evolved during the competition phase, kind of the early part of the phase, and it was, probably one of those late nights working here at the office and realizing that, mostly, bridges of this type are the lighting schemes where you've got this sculptural element, you set up the lights outside and around, and you just throw light at it. And because of the kind of the changing weather around here, and often you have like a nice beautiful morning fog or low clouds, the thought started to evolve that wouldn't it be nice actually if this bridge could glow from within. And so, that kind of seemed to stick with the team, throughout the process. And so, with each iteration, we would be looking at a different way to figure out how to get the thing to glow. And there was a phase certainly where it wasn't possible, but as you see with the final project, the final design iteration, by virtue of this open structure and the wrapping of the feathers, the internal lighting really kind of brings the feathers to light, and allows the different qualities of the Oklahoma sky to play through. And, even when you have low clouds or a fog or whatever, there's kind of still this kind of sense of glow, this sense of life emitting from the bird. I think the biggest challenge from my point of view is really was twofold. The first was ultimately how can we keep everyone's skills that's a member of our team focused on the project. Anytime you bring together these different opinions, these different companies, basically, you basically 6 different companies represented at the design table. You're dealing with different personalities and so forth. And so, the point of view from the project managers was, how can we keep everyone focused on, what we have in common, to keep all those professional abilities, working to the benefit of the project. So that was, I think, one of the big challenges. The other challenge was, a similar issue, but, how it focused outwards. We had so many players that were providing input on this project, whether it was with different departments within the city of Oklahoma City. You had the Department of Transportation, you had the State Historic Preservation Office, the Federal Highways Administration, and so forth. Everyone had a different opinion on what they thought it needed to be. You couple that with, this, amazing challenge to design something iconic for only $6.8 million. And, you start to feel the stress. And so, not only did we then experience challenges internally in terms of managing viewpoints, but we had to also manage all these external viewpoints to ensure that, we would arrive at this singular vision.
The cost was set up at the beginning, the budget was set up at the beginning at roughly $6 million. The structural cost actually is below $3 million. A simple pedestrian bridge would have obviously been less expensive, but a simple pedestrian bridge would be totally ignored. And the whole idea of this project from the beginning was to create an iconic vision or an iconic element for the city. And part of the reason we're so passionate about it is we've lived in this city, all of us have, for quite a while, and we wanted to give something back. So for us, a lot of this basically turned into a very passionate pursuit of a goal where we didn't actually make our normal fees. It's not a normal fee structure. I think basically none of us would look at this as a commercial success for us. On the other hand, from my opinion, personally, it's the job I have the most pride in. As a balancing act, the city of Seattle basically did a pedestrian bridge, very similar, roughly the same length. Their budget is $24 million. Our structural cost was $3 million. We are so inexpensive and efficient from that point of view, and yet, even without the parks being in place, with a bridge right now that had to be built before the parks, people still love stopping and walking across this bridge, even though it's right now in the middle of a construction zone, which to me is a success. I mean, people are already identifying with it. So yes, I'm proud of it, and no, I don't think we wasted the taxpayers' money. I think they received exactly what was promoted was an iconic bridge.
This is one of those projects where from its inception it was always thought of wanting to be all about celebrating Oklahoma and our identity and who we are as people, as trades, as economies, and so forth. And so we knew early on, for example, that we wanted this bridge to be made out of steel. You have this long history of the oil industry in Oklahoma for the last 100 years. And knowing that you've one of the largest and best steel fabrication plants literally 1.5 miles down the road from our site. So when you have a tight budget, you're always looking for what are the quick and easy ways that make sense to help you control costs. And so making this bridge out of steel not only made poetic sense, but it also made economic sense. And so now you have a bridge using taxpayers' dollars but keeping all those dollars here in our local economy. It's about saying, it's about letting the folks at WW Steel and other steel plants that wanted to bid the project, to be competitive, but also to bring their pride to the table as well. And so, you've lowered transportation costs, right? Because we're not, shipping this stuff from across the country. It's literally down the road from the site. It's about, keeping our local tradespeople employed. It's about literally celebrating all that we are for the last 100 years within this very simple, efficient, and elegant structure. So it's ultimately, while it may have these technical aspects of sustainability, steel is 89% recycled material, local economies and so forth, fewer embodied energies, probably the most sustainable aspect to it is the one I think that's most lasting and that most of us keep talking about, and that is, yes, it reinforces our identity. Yes, we like this as a symbol of our city, of our community, who we are and who we will be moving forward. And so so at that very spiritual level of reinforcing identity, it's a very sustainable, very fulfilling project.
I don't think anybody who's lived in Oklahoma City for 20 years sees Bricktown as anything but a positive. It used to be a warehouse region. I did a lot of work out there. I was a contractor. It was pretty much an armpit. It now has architectural elements. It has public art displays. It is a commercial success. It brings tax money into the city. It's bringing more tourism dollars into our city. It improves the quality of life. Slowly but surely, the center part of our city is becoming alive again with people living within the urban environment instead of always moving out to the suburbs. And art plays a big part of this. Why else would you want to live downtown? Part of it is the environment that we've created and the interaction of the people with the buildings and with the public art. And that's a part that Skydance can help play, is to enhance our lifestyles. And it's not just for the people who live down here. I used to live out by Lake Hefner. The center of the city became a sort of magnet. We would often come down here. Obviously, people come down for the Thunder game, come down here downtown to Bricktown for dinners, for meetings. It's become a much more vibrant place to live and work. And frankly, without the good architecture, without the good design elements, without the art, it wouldn't happen. It wouldn't exist. You'd be back where we were 20 years ago.